Welcome back to the Books and Bars podcast, the literary show where we explore the world through words. Before anything changes in your life, it changes in the language that you live by. So, Kay, we're back.
Y'all back. We're back.
We're back. I'm Jay. This is Kay.
Nice to meet y'all.
Host of Books and Bars. And we are in for another episode.
We are.
So let's get started by closing the gap. Talk a little bit about what's going on in the world around us, so we can give the listeners, the audience, the readers, the music fans.
Shoot, we just been sitting here for the last 30 minutes yapping.
We couldn't put any of that on mic, but we can give them a little bit.
I could not put any of that on mic. Yeah, so what's not happening the week that was.
It's only been a week. This week has been 1 year.
It has been a long week. We have seen This Week Alone.
Yo, wait, that was all this week?
Yeah. We had the Voting Rights Act gutted. Because apparently it's okay to judge people on the street with ICE with race.
Right.
We can't use it.
Can't use that in voting.
Redistricting.
Right. Okay.
So that's gone. It's great time. And what else? We have the video making the rounds of the babies can't read.
Yep. We got the Philly students clearly unable to read.
Yep.
While we're closing more schools, 17 of them.
17 closed.
Okay, so that's all in the same week.
And a rideshare tax. For the working class people of Philadelphia.
That's just Philly.
We don't have any schools now, so there's no education. So now we got to pay more taxes.
Yes. Anything national? Other than
what else national? I mean,
that was Saturday, right? When the correspondence dinner. Was that this week?
That was this week too.
You know it's gotten crazy.
The fake assassination
when we forget, right? When the news cycles so fast that we forgot about the attempted presidential assassination.
Yeah.
And that's like the fifth thing we're getting to in the closing the gap.
R.I.P. to his other ear. Yeah, I don't have anything to add on that.
In this time, they didn't even bother with the fake one.
My favorite was the guy sitting there eating the burrata because, like a true New Yorker,
just
couldn't bother to, get down on the ground.
Yo, he looked at the camera,
and you know what?
And looked back at his burrata and carried on with his business.
I say I blame him honestly because
I got the memo.
In that room, shoot, you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know what's gonna happen when you with folks like that.
Oh. My goodness.
But yeah,
it's been a busy week. It's been a real busy week. So a little bit of the setting of where we're approaching this conversation from. The world is a little chaotic. There's a lot of things happening.
A lot and a little.
It's super important
to know how to
tap in with one. Yes. I was going to skip that, but we can. We can't skip that.
I know how to read.
So those who don't know, there was a student in the Philadelphia school district. I forget what school. I'm not going to put it on blast, but he had a video and a microphone. And it's crazy what you can do with a camera phone, a phone, period, and a microphone, right?
And in a lot of ways, it's crazy, and it's also, we need it.
Yeah.
We need it.
So the one classmate was going around with the note card, and I think the challenging word was silhouette and goosh. One of those two. Right.
I don't know how you say it. See, look at me. I read and I'm still
But
struggling.
The kids couldn't read it. They couldn't sound out the words.
No.
I remember how challenging it used to be to read.
Yeah.
Right? When you're first learning, but to still be just learning, and these are high school kids.
The babies don't know
that are struggling to read off a note card, good handwriting, a little bit of a complicated sentence structure with some of the words, but even the ones who were able to read it out loud couldn't comprehend what the meaning of it was.
Couldn't comprehend it.
That's terrifying.
It's crazy, it's crazy to see that. And I'm trying to find it right now. But I saw in Philly earlier this week, because we're recognizing now that there's a literary crisis. Kids can't read numbers, can't read letters. There was a really good story making the rounds in Philly this week. It's a program called Grandmas for Literacy. And it's essentially grandmoms who are really taking the charge on educating the babies about getting them back to reading. And the particular way that grandmothers are uniquely positioned as people who are often raising the children and are respected in neighborhoods. We know this. But it was really neat seeing that story make the rounds, but it was also equally heartbreaking, right? Because it's like we are here now. And once again, like Black elders will be picking up the pieces
Stepping up.
in many ways. And you know, it's crazy to think about that too, because like these same Black grandmothers who are leading this charge now for literacy are the same folks that have watched the passing of the Voting Rights Act.
Yeah.
So they have seen it pass and they have now seen it be dismantled.
Right. They saw it as kids. They grew up. We thought it was cool. We chilled a little too much. We got a Black president. We thought racism was gone. You got white men on CNN saying racism's over. The same week that we're eliminating the voting rights, Section 2, after Section 5 was already gone, right? So weakening something that is essential to being able to live as a full citizen in a society. Right? If your voting rights are diminished in any way by anyone for anyone, right? It diminishes your ability to advocate for yourself and your community.
And you know, let's be clear that the impact is going to be most heavily in the South, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Cities like New Orleans, for example.
Any place in Louisiana, any place in Mississippi, any place in Alabama.
We're going to see the rollback of
because now you can
representation.
You can't call it on race, but you can call it on partisanship. So if you have Republicans in power and they want to shift that power to be more Republican, they have that right. And once that's done, it's really hard to undo something like that.
And that's the thing, I think.
That's not a 4-year plan. That's not a 8-year strategy. No. That's a 100-year takeover.
Well, and you know, yes, I hear that, and I think when we start to have these conversations, right, and it's like, all of the undoing, we can't redo with the current Democratic Party.
Right.
We can absolutely, repair, restore some of the damage that's been done with a more progressive type of candidate, a new party, rather. And I think that's the part of the conversation where it's like people are looking everywhere for a solution. And I've never believed that it's in a two-party system. But I think what we're seeing too is the solution is community. Just like we tie in, the Grandmothers for Literacy now taking up this charge in Philly, like we really need to be leaning on each other, especially now in these times. It's ever more important because community is all we've had and it's all we've got moving forward.
It's the only thing we can afford at this point.
Right, shoot. Community is free. Community is free 99. There's some think pieces on that we could talk about, but like if you doing community right, and you are able to go deep with your homies, with your friends, with your comrades, like community can be free.
100%. 100%.
So,
all right.
Note,
we got to get into the books because once we get to the bridge portion of the conversation, we're going to be able to tie the closing the gap where we are now with at least what I know what I read and listened to.
Yeah.
I actually didn't even have time. Normally I text you and I'm like, yo, like, what are you on this week? What are you on this month? And it took me so long to get through my 2 pieces, my book, my album with the care that I wanted to put into it. I didn't even have time to think about listening to or reading your material for this week. So I want to let you go ahead and
read that.
Yeah. So this next section of the show is called Unbound. This is our 60-second breakdown. Where we remove the barrier to entry for anyone who hasn't read or listened to the book or the album. So I'm gonna turn it over to you, let you go, get your stuff on.
Yeah, so this month, I revisited Toni Morrison. As I always do during times like this, Toni Morrison is an author that grounds us, because Toni Morrison's work is everlasting. It's relevant 20 years ago, 20 years from now. But Toni is a force. She is a Nobel laureate. She is a novelist. She's an essayist. To know Toni Morrison is to know what it means to decentralize whiteness, what it means to write from a locality of Blackness and to be proud of that. Toni was so proud to write books that centered the Black experience, and her career saw her questioned repeatedly on that. It's like, oh, do you get frustrated that people are constantly asking you, like, why don't you write about white people? And she said, that's not my ministry. Her work was to unapologetically center Black people, Black voices, Black culture, Black humanity. And she did that. She did that over the course of, I think she has like 10 or 12 books. And one of those books, which is what I read, is A Source of Self-Regard, which is basically a collection of her speeches and essays and interviews over the years. Beautiful, beautiful book. You can really see the evolution of her and her thinking and her writing over time. But it's also a book that reminds me that we have all the answers that we need. We don't actually need new knowledge at this point. We just need to listen to the elders and get in community and recognize that we've had everything we needed. So Toni is just that, the luminary. Not perfect, as no elders are, but definitely someone who is a light and a guide in times such as these.
Damn, I should have read. I should have read. I'm so in.
Read that too, so you might get a little piece of it. But I think the best way, honestly, like to introduce yourself to Toni Morrison, if you have never dipped your toe in, you might hear Bluest Eye. That's usually the book that people start with, or Beloved. But I would actually start with her interviews on PBS. She did a lot of interviews over the years on public television networks. That was deliberate. And you can find a lot of those on YouTube, and just, Google Toni Morrison, PBS, they'll come right up. That and her documentary, which was more recently released, and the documentary is beautiful. It is a phenomenal tribute to a life and a legacy. And if, for whatever reason, you might not have time to sit with Toni, because again, Toni's one of those authors that requires work.
Time.
Yeah, you need to sit and be able to digest. But the interviews, you can listen to an interview, listen to a documentary at any point.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too when you get to hear the person who created the art. Like you get to understand the artist, and then you get to enter into the art that that person created with a deeper understanding of where they were coming from, what their perspective is, and how they're now applying their talent to tell the story that you're reading.
And it's funny you say that too, because Toni Morrison has a particular command over language and words.
Oh, no doubt.
And you
the
can
tone, the rhythm, like the accent that she can write with, the way she can
bend language
to say something without saying it is to me the sign of a truly gifted author.
And she could do that because, again, like she committed herself to decentralizing whiteness. She said, that's not where I'm at, that's over there. Respectfully, I'm right here. I'm moving who I am to the center.
What bars did you pair your book with?
So I paired it with Sade, Love Deluxe, which is everything. It's an album that, again, calls you back to self, calls you back to love, and challenges you to think deeper about what it means to show up fully human. I always, any kind of spring morning, I got this track rocking. So, one of my all-time favorite albums.
Okay. All right, perfect. So thank you for your Unbound. This month I read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And I struggled, right? Because so those who don't know, that's
now I know why
a book about the Holocaust, right? It's not a light read. It's not like even a fun read, but it's surprisingly inspirational, right? And this was my first time reading this. I wanted to have something this month that was about the meaning and finding purpose in life, because I think, as you mentioned, community is one of those things that is so healing. But knowing your own purpose is just like, that is a superpower. To know what your purpose is allows you, and this is one of the quotes from the book, that if you understand your why to live, you can live and survive through almost any how. Right? And in a time when, like we talked about in the beginning of the episode, there's so much that's inundating us, right? We got literacy problems.
Yeah.
We have mental health problems. We have economic problems. We have unhoused people all in any city in America.
Right.
We have all these challenges and all these things that you could easily be like, F it, I'm out. I quit. I'm done.
Yeah.
And if you don't have something that tethers you to a why, if you don't have a why that tethers you to the day to day, it's really hard to get through some days.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And on those bad days,
Yep.
that's where you need that why more than ever. You need that community more than ever. So Viktor Frankl he's a Holocaust survivor.
Yes.
And a psychologist. And his book, Man's Search for Meaning, it tells the story and the tragedy and the travesty that was his experience in Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do it in a way that like dwells only on that, right? Like he was in there, and what he learned through that terrible experience, he was already thinking about, how do I apply this to other people, to help other people when I get out of this, not if. Right? He lived through that hellstorm with a why, and that why was to get out and share his story so that other people who were going through not the same situation, but through terrible situations or the worst situation for that person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To be able to find the meaning in life and have that meaning be your light, be your guide. And he talks about how we're responsible for choosing meaning. Right? You have to have that responsibility and take and meet that responsibility to find your meaning.
Yeah.
And then live in it. And that, when I got to that point, I was like, all right, cool. What the hell am I going to pair with this?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what could possibly find
what do you pair with that?
An album that can be paired with a once in a century type of terrible event, like the Holocaust, right? So I took that piece where he says, if you have a why to live, you can survive anyhow. And his call for us to all be responsible for choosing our meaning. I wanted to be like, all right, cool. Once we have that meaning, what do we do with it? And that's where I got to Black Star.
Yes.
Mos Def and Talib Kweli.
Yes.
Came together, formed their rap group Black Star, right? And at the same time, when a lot of hip hop was starting to go what we call now mainstream, and worry about commercialization and rapping about the lifestyle of rap and the money, the cars, the hoes, the clothes, and it started to go in that direction, right? And it stopped being this piece of art where we talked about self-identity, and we were teaching kids lessons and how to overcome challenges, and like your real life, like your day-to-day was replaced with like what your rap life was, right? And not everybody's a rapper, but like everybody goes through these challenges in life, right? So the reason that I chose Black Star as the album was because of the questions that it raises, like who are you, what are you choosing, and who set you on the path to chase whatever you chose to chase, right? Was it you, or was it this world that is like designed to profit and commercialize off your distraction? And this is the 90s, right? I'm gonna sound like an old head today, and I don't give a fuck. I really don't. I really don't, because like this music is music that you can listen to and get something from that you can apply to your actual real life to make it better. No matter what you put in your ears, it's going to change your brain. Your ears and your eyes directly connect to your brain, right? Like your foot is all the way down there. Your arms all the way, your heart even.
But you go hear something and your foot's going to tap.
Yep. You're going to snap the fingers. Your heart's going to change its pace off of what you put in between your ears and what you see with your eyes, right? Because they are direct to so read and listen to good music, right? And that's why like it impacts straight to your brain. And when you hear some of these questions that are being raised, and they're doing it in a way that flows, they got crazy control of the English language where they can bend bars and bend words into different rhythms, and the beats are hard.
Bending language. It can happen in music.
It's both mediums, and that's why we decided to do the whole thing. But you got to be aware that there's a system that benefits from your distraction. That's true when they wrote this in the 90s. That's true when Viktor Frankl was going through
Yep.
his experience in the Holocaust. That's true when Toni Morrison was
Yep.
writing. That's true today.
Yes.
There are distractions that will start to paint and warp and pull you from reality.
Mm-hmm. Which is why it's so important. And I think purpose, the fact that you are ruminating on that right now is really powerful, because I've been thinking a lot about, especially, you know, one of the things we didn't mention that has also been going on this past week is femicide of Black women. And how easy it is to disregard life when you're not living with purpose. And it's like, if you understand your purpose as divine, if you understand yourself as a divine being, a divine creation, and you find that purpose within yourself, you can never get to a point where you think it's acceptable to kill another person. And I think when we think about that and this conversation, I think a lot of times, you know, mental health goes into effect, all of these different things pop up, patriarchy, misogyny, misogynoir. And I also think that the piece that gets missed is it's like, but what reason have we given people to find purpose in their lives?
Purpose or pathway to find purpose.
Right. And that's the thing. Purpose is cultivated.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have people speaking life into you to understand your purpose. Like, I think both of us are in a spot where we can pretty clearly articulate our purpose, and, you know, it's ever evolving, but we can do that because we had life spoken into us. We had prayers prayed over us. We had community that's constantly telling us that, no, you can do, don't forget your purpose, and you can do this. And if you don't have that, purpose is a offering of community. To know your purpose is to know that you were loved.
Yeah, you just took them to church, like for real, because you only can get to that point where you realize your purpose from, like you said, the cultivation, the pouring in of, but like you also have to have your survival needs met.
Right.
Like it's real hard, right? And like if you're born into the Holocaust, right? Mm-hmm. You're born into that, right? You don't have that opportunity to grow up, to become an adult, to experience life, to have your mistakes, to know that tomorrow the sun comes up no matter what happens to you today. When you don't have that, or you don't have that purpose before you go through something terrible like that, it wasn't like the strongest people survived that.
No.
Not the most physically strong, not the most physically healthy, not the wealth. None of that shit matters.
No.
Right? It's being able to know that there is a why. And if you haven't had that why cultivated, like you said, when the bad stuff happens, it gets really easy to disregard life. And you said that, and it stopped me in my tracks. Like the disregard of life, I don't know what that is. But I know people who do. I don't know what that is. And like that changes how I see the world, how I see reality, how I interact with people, places, things, myself.
And here's the thing. One of the most beautiful things about Viktor Frankl is the fact that despite experiencing genocide, because he has a purpose and because he has identified that for himself, he advocates on behalf of Palestinian people who are also experiencing a genocide. And that understanding, that knowing that you have been through the depths of hell and back, but you don't want that done unto others, purpose is what is counteracting that. Not always, it's not the sole thing, but I do think it's a protective factor. I think because he has identified that in himself, he doesn't need to seek vengeance. He doesn't need to see someone else suffer to heal from his own. And that I when you said that you read that, I was like, this feels divine in many ways, because I think we're at an inflection point right now in society where we are seeing the repercussions of people not being poured into. We are seeing people not have their basic needs met. We are seeing a breakdown, I think, in some ways of community. And that's not to say that community isn't showing up. I think it's to say that how we are showing up has changed, right?
But if the whole community is fucked up,
and that's the thing too,
right? Or if the majority of the community is fucked up or doesn't
right.
have the basic resources that they need, or
right.
or isn't getting the basic education they need, how are
Yep.
we supposed to, right?
How can you pour?
How do you're pouring into something with a bunch of holes in
Yep.
it?
And it's going to just
you can pour as fast as you want, as much as you want. If
Yep.
there's nothing to meet the basic floor,
and you can't pour from an empty cup, and I think that's the thing too. Like,
and it's like, what happens, right? Does the pour, right? You're supposed to pour back and forth,
yeah,
right? But if one of the things that you're pouring into doesn't have
Yep.
a bottom, the thing that is pouring is eventually going to be empty.
Or if
There's
you
nothing
lose in
to
half the water on the pour, you only pouring in half of
Right.
what you into the other cup.
Right. And over time,
Yep. And it's like, what's that catch basin? Well, it's resources, it's food, it's shelter, it's security.
mhm,
And those are the things that catch you when maybe
we can't get those right. We're not even
right.
prioritizing getting those right because we're prioritizing the privatization of those exact things.
Exactly.
Right? Like the privatization of a nursing home is wild to me. The privatization of healthcare is wild to me.
Of
the privatization of education.
Water.
Water.
We haven't even touched
Water.
that conversation.
Water.
We haven't even touched that.
So we went right into the bridge, right? We talked about how what's happening in the world relates to what we read, what we listened to.
Yeah.
I think the bridge that connects all of our material, right? Your book, my book, your album, my album, is that meaning is something you find, but you find it sometimes when life isn't easy.
What's been your journey with purpose? Out of curiosity. Because you're someone that I know to have a very strong conviction and sense of self. And I respect that about you because that allows you to hold other people in your life accountable. That allows you to keep it facts with folks.
Well, I realized that, right? I realized Pops used to say, what's done in the dark comes out in the light. Right? And like when you're doing stuff in the dark, even if nobody sees it at first, it's gonna come out in the light, and like it impacts how you can influence other people.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm not no social media influencer, but I have a sphere of influence where my word carries weight, but that's because my actions have shown people, right, and built that trust over time. And like your reputation, your name, you get one. Right? You might be able to change it throughout a couple times, right? Like Kanye to Ye to whatever over there, right? Even Malcolm used to be
Toni Morrison
Red.
Changed your name.
Toni Morrison changed her name. Bell Hooks doesn't go by, right? You can change, but like it attaches. It's attached to you, and it's attached to your character. And I never want dirt or mud or slander on my name or my character.
Yeah.
So I do my best to, one, never give anyone the reason, but two, like for me, like life has not necessarily been easy.
Right.
Life, like there's been loss of people I've loved, of opportunities, of just like seeing loss in the world, right? And as an empath, like that hurts, and instead of dwelling in the hurt and the pain, rewrite the chapter, right? Like rewrite what the reality is from this moment, but also what it's going to become in the future, right? Because like I don't know how much you can change in a day, but you string a bunch of days together, you might have something.
It's funny, that makes me think there's a quote in Source of Self-Regard, and I'm gonna butcher it, but it goes, it's like, our past is bleak, our future is dim, but I am not reasonable. A reasonable man adjusts to his environment, an unreasonable man does not at all. All progress, therefore, depends on the unreasonable man, and I prefer not to adjust to my environment. And I think there's another
If you butchered that, then well done.
Another sense in there about like refusing the prison of I and coming to understand the opportunity of we.
That's the next step. So, right, the first piece is the purpose. The second step is the community.
Yes.
You want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far,
Go together.
go together.
Yeah.
Right? The African proverb. Like,
and that's the thing. This
just,
isn't new. Like,
it's
we've
not.
said the same
It's not. And like,
things
yo, they talk
over
about that
and
in the
over.
Black Star album.
Yeah.
There's a song called Definition. And then the song right after that is Redefinition.
Okay.
And they talk about the awareness, again, of the system that's trying to tell you what your reality is, or how to move through the world, or how to move through space, or how to do this, or how to do that, as opposed to finding what it is for you. Because, yo, as much as me and you align on, your reality and the way you see the world is different than the way I see the world. My reality is different than you. Our perspectives are different. We have so much that's in alignment.
We have shared values,
right?
Which is that
but not a shared experience, because your experience can't be shared with nobody else. It's like a fingerprint. I think it's so cool that the only way you can ever see yourself is in a picture, a video, or a mirror. Everybody else can look at you. Everybody else can look at you, but you can't look at yourself. Like, you gotta look in the mirror. Like, you have to take that time to really get to know yourself and what your purpose is. And I think that, going back to your last question about why I'm so purpose driven, it's just having done that process every day for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, and cultivating that purpose over time. And I think that's the thing too. Like, purpose doesn't mean that you fixate on one thing and that's just
oh God,
right?
No,
like,
not at all. I do like 70,000 different things.
Yeah, is this like, sometimes I feel like I'm using athletes because you and I have we both have a lot of experience with athletics. And, the ways that sometimes when you are competing, you come to define your purpose and yourself as an athlete, right? Like, I am athlete. And when that ends, a lot of athletes really struggle to make that transition, and figure out, who am I outside of sport? And I think we often mistake purpose for what we do in a given moment, not
identity for your profession, or
And when you find purpose, you find ways it evolves, and it grows, and it ebbs and flows over the years. And I think that's something that I've had to really keep in mind, like, as I have gone through the 20s, decade of the 20s, still going through the decade of the 20s, and really recognizing that I'm not the same person I was when I was 21, but my purpose has still remained the same. And that growth is really powerful, but it's something that I think people get lost in. Like, they allow their purpose to be dictated by growth or not by growth. And I think there's ways that can hold folks back, and it's like, you can lose your purpose.
Yeah.
Because if you're so wrapped up in how you're changing or how things should have been, you forget yourself as the person.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know one of my favorite animals is a snake, because of the way it sheds its skin. Like, snakes get the worst rap. I think it's partially because of the Bible. The other part is, like, why you slither around with no legs. They get a bad rep. But, like, the way that a snake grows and changes over time, it literally sheds its outer skin.
Yeah.
Right? It changes on the outside, right? What everyone else sees, but the snake is still the same.
And it's undergoing change. And we can't see it.
Constantly.
Yep.
And I think that's like just a nice metaphor for what the growth process looks like. It can look like one way to the outside, and completely different to the person in it. So I think that's a great place for us to hop into the real, where we translate the art that we have listened to life. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
What happens to society when identity is assigned instead of discovered? So if you're being told what your purpose is over and over again, right? You're going to that school where the kids are and nobody can read.
Yeah.
And then you have the kid who pointed it out being told that, you got to take this down, or we're not letting you go to prom. We're going to expel you. You're not going to get to walk at graduation. What are we doing in a society that's telling us who we are and what we can be?
This is such a deep question for me. Beautiful question too. I think we are robbing ourselves of potential and abundance when we assign identity to people. And I think about this in the context of how I saw a video earlier this week. There's, for people that follow Kevin on stage, there's a huge discourse right now happening with how he is viewing LGBTQ folks in the church. True ally, and he has done a lot of evolution over the course of his career and his understanding of God. And I saw a video in response to people, being spiteful, and self-righteous. And it was this person who talked about opening yourself up to understanding that if you follow a God of limitation, you are always going to see the world in limits. And you're always going to assign a limitation onto possibility. And I think, and I'm going somewhere with this because I think the ways that we assign identity and we assign potential and possibility actually does come a lot from how we understand God. And the theology that we have grounded ourselves in. And I say we broadly because religion broadly, I think, is important to talk about in this regard, whether it's black or it's white. Both apply in this instance. And that whole discourse really made me think, and I think to your question, if we are telling people who they are, if we are not allowing people to experience the fullness of their humanity first, if we are not allowing people the safety to actually discover what might exist beyond the limitations of what we even perceive possible, then what are we doing? We are limiting and we are dehumanizing people at every turn. And so when you tell a kid they can't read, or when you put a kid in an environment where that's going to become an inevitable, that child has no other way to look at the world than through a lens of limitation. That limitation over here is going to translate what they do over there. And I think that's really important because we have a responsibility as adults and as elders to understand that, yes, there are systemic conditions that will always limit. However, a lot of the limitations that we place on kids, I truly believe, come from that lens.
It's what we do next, right?
Yes.
Like you can be in an environment that that has a limited amount of resources. You have to decide what you're going to do about it.
Right. And that's not to say pull your bootstraps up.
No, it's not.
There's limitations, and you and I both know that. But I think when we understand ourselves as abundant, we will always figure out a way to find what we need. And it don't cost anything to speak life into people. It really doesn't. Okay, so maybe those kids over here, or these kids over here, maybe for whatever reason, systemically, yeah, they can't read. But it costs you nothing to walk into that classroom every day and say, hey, you know what? I see you. I see the conditions that you're in, but I don't want this for you. And so you know what? You can't read right now, but you will.
Yep.
You will. And we will get there. We will take the steps to get there and figure it out. And it's like, you might not be reading chapter books by the end of the year, but you damn well going to be able to read a paragraph.
100%.
And it's like that responsibility in increments, I think, is what we have lost. Because instead of being okay with the incremental growth, we've just said, screw all of it.
I just won't grow.
You just won't grow.
We won't grow.
Or we won't
just
take
stay
the
the same.
responsibility to help someone grow incrementally. Because if we can't
it takes
see
time.
Right. And selfishly, I think a lot of people want to be responsible for seeing people through something, right? And it's like, you may not be able to go the distance with that person. You may not ever see the finished product,
Do your
but that
piece.
doesn't mean you don't participate in the journey.
Wow. Yeah, because like the whole journey is the point, right? Like I think all the artists that we interacted with this month for this episode understand that things take time. It takes consistency. It takes action over time, consistent action from point A to point Z and going A to B, B to C before you can really become that fully finished product. And like you're never really a fully finished product.
No.
Like you talked about, oh, you don't know how to read right now. There are people in their 60s and their 70s and their 80s that learn how to read for the first time in their lives.
And that opens up a whole new world.
As someone who like learned how to read early,
Yep.
that's a power. That's powerful. Being able to open up a book and see into someone else's way of the world through the power of words or through the power of words and music it gives you that empathy. It gives you that it allows you to deepen your purpose because you're seeing another perspective. The easiest thing to change is your mind if you're open it. If you open it up and let things come in and also things go out. Right. If you learn and unlearn constantly, you're going to grow. You're going to keep using your mental muscle in a way that it's going to challenge it every day. Like I don't remember the last day that I didn't learn something or think about something differently or challenge the way that I think or think about, hey, how did that thought get there? Yeah. Right? Like that is not something that's taught to you in a school a lot of the time. No. But it's something that you can learn once you start doing it. It's like a chicken and the egg thing. You start to read books, you're like, oh, that's a different idea I never even considered. Or that's a place that this person's describing that I've never been to, but I feel like my feet are in the sand in the Mojave Desert.
But when you have purpose and that self-regard, right, like you become committed to daily improvement. Like you and I are both.
You believe that it's worthwhile.
You believe that it's possible and worthwhile. And that's the thing too, is it's like, but when you have that reflected at you that it's not, and I think about this a lot with school, especially just being in Philly right now too and everything that's going on. Often kids are passed from grade to grade and
without having established the skills.
They're just passed along. And I'm like, that's also a message, right? Because it's like, if I don't believe enough in you as a person to invest in you even just a little bit to where I want you to get 1% better per day, and I'm just going to keep passing you along through the system, the kid has no incentive to recognize that they can actually take ownership and agency over that self-improvement too.
100%.
Like my teacher might not be here, but I want to go make sure that I learned this thing today, or I want to be curious about this piece of, something over here. But when you have adults constantly modeling to you that there's no need to do that, of course, the kids are going to be where they're at right now.
They don't know anything. We have to show them, and they model what we do. Like my niece is a toddler. She picks up on everything.
Yes.
But if she wasn't picking up the things that were like challenging her, I'm trying to teach her how to ride her bike, right?
Right.
And she didn't want to take her training wheels off.
Yep.
So I was like, all right, cool, let's take one off. And she's like, okay, Uncle Jojo, let's take one off.
Yeah.
Right? And then I'm out there with her. And I'm like, yo, I actually taught your mom how to ride her bike here, like right here.
Yep.
Right? And this is what I did with your mom. So like model, right? Your mom knows how to ride a bike now.
Yep.
You're learning. You don't know how to do it yet.
Yep.
But you never say can't.
But I'm going to get you there.
We're going to do the things that we need to do to get better at it. Let's take this other training wheel off.
Right.
Right? And she was a little afraid the first time. And then she fell and she was like, what do I do? Get up. You got your elbow pads on. You got your knee pads on. Got your cute little helmet. Let's pop you up. Let's go back and try again.
Helmet and elbow pads.
Safety first.
Yep, exactly. But that's the thing too, and I think that's another piece of this, right? Like elbow pads, knee pads, helmet. They created an environment where it was okay to fail, right? because ultimately that failure wasn't detrimental.
Mm-hmm.
She ain't gonna fall on the ground and crack her head open.
Yo, if that's what happens the first time you get on a bike, I'm not getting on a bike
and
again.
You're not gonna do it again.
I'm not getting on there
and that's
again.
the thing too. So it's like you think about the conditions just as much as you think about, because that's the thing, like these kids don't know ball right now, but it's because they're in an environment that tells them they don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are brilliant. Like
Mm-hmm.
kids are unlimited potential. Kids are love in so many ways, and it's putting them in an environment that actually allows those things to be valued. Because right now, like we put them in environments where it's not cool to lead with love.
It's not safe sometimes.
It's not safe. And you have kids who are in circumstances where it's like, if I leave this, that's going to cost me my life.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you do with that?
I mean, there's such a lack of accountability in schools, a lack of respect in schools, and a lack of safety in schools.
Yes.
That it makes it almost impossible to get to that point of building the skills to find your purpose.
Yes.
Right? If you're going to school every day and your first thing you got to do is go through a metal detector. The second thing is you got to punch your name in like you're a criminal entering into a prison, right? And then you can be there trying to and wanting to learn, but your teacher's burned out because the day before a kid got maced and your teacher was near it, and now there's mace in your teacher's eye. They didn't sleep well, so now they're burned out. They don't want to teach. Now you have a question about your geometry assignment, and you can't go ask your teacher because she can barely see.
Right.
Can't ask any of your classmates because they don't know the answers. You get pushed onto AI on your tablets, and now you're asking, right? So maybe that's a decent enough for that one time, but like, are you learning the skills that you actually need when you're outside of that classroom? And maybe we are. Maybe they are learning how to be in the environment that is the one that's keeping them stuck. You're getting trained to be in that
safe. Like when harm
for the moment, but not for the long term.
Right.
When those don't line up, you live in chaos.
Right.
If your best interest of today is not in any type of alignment with your best interest for the future, you got to worry about right now.
Exactly.
Right? You got to worry about right now because that's survival.
And
if you're only surviving, that's all you can do.
You can only look at the moment in front of you. And I think there's ways in which that's beautiful, and there's also ways in which that's tragic.
And I think that we as Black people know how to do both.
Yeah.
Right? But what's the environment like, and which one are you spending more of your time on? If most of your time is just spent on survival, you ain't never looking, right? You're not even taking your attention and focusing it on the future.
Right.
And some people can do both. They have one eye going this way into what I'm doing right here to survive, and another eye, but most people can't do that because that's
also a survival skill. Like, let's also recognize that's a survival strategy in of itself. And yeah, I think it's getting people to live in the moment, but not from an orientation of survival. And understanding that being able to do that is ultimately what's going to allow you to make the growth and to grow yourself and your purpose. But when you have people who are surviving, when you have conditions that don't allow you to thrive, all you have is those around you. And that's really just it. Like, you have those who can or won't speak life into you. And that's why this is so tricky, because it's like what comes first, the systemic or the community? And I think there's ways in which those trade off. And I think to address this and to get people to be able to sit and have time to actually like tinker with your personhood, that requires a particular sense of safety. It requires a particular sense of resources. It also requires a particular kind of community. There are plenty of people who are very, very privileged, very wealthy, even very comfortable, and they are surrounded by people who don't actually encourage them to grow. So they don't have purpose either. And it's how it shows up. And I think you can't have only one. You have to have all of them working together.
I think it's so important to to find your why and protect your why.
Yep.
And I think that takes us to where we can start wrapping up this episode
Yes.
with the mirror. So the mirror is our segment where we leave you, the listener, with a question
Yeah.
that you can actually go deeper with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
A question that you can have what's called a mirror moment.
Yep.
Where you have that moment where it's just you. You don't have to put up a front for anyone else. It's just you answering this question about what is your why, and is your why strong enough to survive tragedy? Because, right, if you don't know your why, the step one is you got to find out what your why is. You got to find your purpose.
Yeah.
And if you have it, do you have a clear enough view on what that is, that it's going to survive when things go wrong? Because there's going to be challenges. There's going to be obstacles. There's going to be losses along the way. But is your why strong enough and connected enough to you that that alignment allows you to survive that tragedy?
I mean, beautiful question to end it with. And I think, when we're thinking about the why, right? And when we're thinking about, are you able to move that why through tragedy? It makes me think about Source of Self-Regard. And there is a quote that I'm going to read word for word. But Toni says, memory, the deliberate act of remembering, is a form of willed creation. It is not an effort to find out the way it really was. That is research. The point is to dwell on the way it appeared and why it appeared in that particular way. And I think when we're thinking about purpose, we can close ourselves out with that. Remember, like, who were you when you were your happiest, or who were you when you were a little kid? Because that's often where that purpose lies, right?
It does.
And we're all here. We're all anointed. We all have something, some sort of purpose that we walk in and with. And it's our challenge to find it and remember it.
All right. To put a period on this episode, meaning is the fingerprint of what we leave behind and who we become by experiencing life.
Yes.
And I want y'all to take that, share this episode, like, comment, subscribe. All the things.
Also, what quotes resonated with you? I think that's another thing too. Like, use this as conversation points with people, right? Like, use this conversation to build
more conversations. Be in community with our conversation.
Right.
That's a great takeaway. So as we close this chapter on this episode 3, keep reading, keep listening, and keep checking in with Books and Bars.
And stay close to your people. We need it.
Peace, y'all. Crushed it. Get that posted and